Hello lovely people, how are you all doing today? I do hope you are well. I'm okay. It's kind of same old at the moment, this nightmare scenario that I'm in. I'm not going to share any details about it today because frankly it's horrible, these emails that keep pouring in that are both sort of bullying and threatening and it's a vile process, and frankly it's a ridiculous process. It does not need to be like this, but that's how it is in, well, I was going to say the UK. It's not like this in Scotland. In Scotland they have a much better system and it's quicker. Oh, to live in Scotland. Yeah, so no news other than, well, I don't know. I mentioned a few videos back, and I've particularly been feeling it this morning, that I think there's going to come a point. I was chatting with a friend about this, saying I just don't know how much more of this I can take. There'll come a point where I say, you know what, fine, I'm out. You know, being harassed on this side, being harassed on that side. I've done everything that I'm supposed to have done. I've done everything in a timely manner. I mean, I have reacted with such alacrity to pretty much every email and demand of me. Sometimes literally within seconds of that email arriving, I'm responding and giving them what they want. So yeah, there's nothing else I can do. So they all need to leave me alone. And if they don't, I'm going to force them to leave me alone by saying, you know what, I'm out. This isn't happening. I'm out. Everybody loses. Are you happy now? Anyway, that's how I feel, but I probably oughtn't to do that because that will cost me a lot of money and I'll be cutting my nose off to spite my face. So on to happier things. Let's try and be happy. And honestly, at the moment, that's kind of being my mantra a lot, is I find something to be happy about. So when I've received an email and my brain is whirring and I feel sick and I'm shaking because of the latest thing, or symptoms of stress, I sort of say, right, okay, think of something happy thoughts. What makes you happy? Do something that makes you happy. And that's actually kind of the theme for today in a way, is what makes us happy. And it's prompted by, I had a surprise parcel, and I also had a surprise gift. So I had the lovely, gorgeous Richard and Paul over for the other day. Just came over for a day, hung out, we ate, we talked, we laughed, we cried, we shouted, we bemoaned, laughed a bit more, ate a bit more. Such a lovely day. So I prepared lunch and I did the store cupboard curry. It was great. It's such an easy dish, but it's so tasty. So we had that with rice this time. And then Paul had made his own hummus, which is so good. His hummus is so much better than mine. It's miles better. Anyway, so Paul's hummus, and Richard had made some really lovely, just little oat cakes, really tasty. Oh, and they also brought some Stilton. So we had our lunch, and then much later on, as a sort of somewhere between afternoon tea and evening meal, we had oat cakes with hummus and Stilton. It was so lovely. And Paul produced, so I'll show you what he produced in a minute, but because they were here, we did our usual thing of, oh, I've got this for you, oh, I've got this for you. It was great. And that phrase keeps going around in my head. Happiness is, because after they'd gone, and I've got this little stack of bits to show from a parcel and from them, and I thought, and it was sitting on this chair, the little part, and I thought, happiness is this little scene right here, my chair with this little pile of things on it. Happiness is this. It's a nice game to play. Happiness is ... What makes you happy? What is your happiness? And then I quickly jotted down, I thought, right, quick, off the top of your head, don't think about it too much. 3 things to follow on from the line, happiness is. So my 3 things, excuse me, that I came up with. Happiness is watching your dog running in its sleep. I used to love that with little Charlotte Bronte, sound asleep, and the paws going 10 to the dozen, 19 to the dozen, with that kind of I used to watch it and love it and think, I hope that's a happy dream. I hope she's chasing squirrels or rabbits or something and that she's happy. But yeah, happiness is watching my dog running in its sleep. Oh, this was a good one. Happiness is licking honey off your salty fingers after you've had a dip in, or after I have had a dip in the Aegean Sea, got out of the sea and eaten some baklava, licking the honey off my fingers, but my fingers are all so salty from being in the sea. That is happiness. Happiness is clean, cool, crisp cotton sheets on a hot summer's night. When you've done the laundry, and especially those of you who can air dry your laundry outside, who line dry it. I mean, I air dry my laundry. I don't have a tumble dryer, so it all gets dried on the clothes horse. But the thing of, especially if sheets have been line dried outside, bring them in, make the bed, clean, crisp, cool cotton sheets, that smell of air. Happiness is that. So the little pile that was sitting on my chair that made me say happiness was this. Happiness is a little pile of entertainment joy that's totally unexpected. The unexpected thing makes it even more happy. So back to Paul before I share my parcel with you. Let's just pop that down there a sec. Paul brought me 2 books, The Ship Beneath the Ice, The Discovery of Shackleton's Endurance, and then The Malice of the Waves by Mark Douglas Hume. Now, I love the story behind the story as well as the story. Bear with me. So if we say this is a story, what's the story behind, because it's secondhand, what's the story behind the book of the story? And these 2 have little stories. So this one Paul picked up at his local library. They have a sort of a swap shelf. So, you know, a sharing library. So not the actual library books themselves, but if someone's read a book, they can leave it there for someone else to take. Is it for free at your place, Paul? Because my library has that, but they have a suggested donation of £1. I think you can take them for free if you don't have any money. But if you want to leave £1, great. And it goes into the library funds. My library is a private library. It's not run by the council. The council decided there was no more money for it, so they closed it down. But the community, yay, community saved it. So it's a community library now. Anyway, so this was on one of the shelves. He picked it up, read it, thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it might have been a new to him author. It's a detective novel. So he was telling me about this, and it was around about the time, do you remember I mentioned I'd stumbled on Shetland, the TV show? And I was really enjoying it because, for many reasons, but the setting, the wildness, the sea, the slow pace of it. So I think each one is either 4 or 6 episodes, and it's one mystery that goes across all the episodes. It's not an hour-long show. A murder happens at the beginning. By the end, they've got their culprit in jail. It's over the whole. So I liked the pace of it. And then he was telling me about this off the back of that, and okay, it's got waves in the title. I mean, come on. So he was telling me, I think he might have been reading from the back. Investigator Cal McGill uses his knowledge of tides, winds and currents to solve the mysteries no one else can. This one, it says, 5 years ago, 14-year-old Max disappeared from a remote Scottish island. And I think that's the bit as far as Paul got, and I said, please can I have a borrow? The sea, a remote island, a whodunit. Well, that sounds right up my street. So I'll be giving that a read really soon. Oh, hello. Oh, it's got a map. I love a book with a map. Maps with currents. I was looking at the front. So he's written, I'm getting warm now. The sun's come out today, and we know what happens when the sun comes out on my flat. I can't get my arms out. Hang on. There we go. It starts to heat the flat up. I'm still wearing vests. It's not that warm. Yes, he has written three others. Oh no, this is one of the three. Let me show you, that's the cover. He's also written The Sea Detective. I mean, come on, that's got my name all over it. And, oh, The Woman Who Walked into the Sea. If a book has got the word sea or waves in the title, my interest is piqued. So thank you so much to Paul. Does he want this back? I must check. But yeah, I love the fact that he's picked that. Someone else had it, read it, has left it on the share shelves. Paul's picked it up, read it, enjoyed it, now passed it on to me. I'll find out whether I'm passing it back to him or whether I'm now allowed to pass it on to someone else. What would be great is I put this on my library share shelf. And this one, the story behind the story, well, obviously, maybe you can't really properly see them, can you? But there's, anyone who's ever had a close look at my shelves will know that polar exploration and mountains have always been a bit of a thing for me. The story behind this one, though, from Paul, is Paul was walking into his library and someone was coming out, and the person coming out said to Paul, "Oh, you look like an explorer. Maybe you'd like this." She gave it to him. And Paul thought, well, I don't know if it's my cup of tea, and I'm not an explorer, but I know somebody who is. So he's grabbed it for our Vivi. Yeah, brilliant. Again, I'm not sure whether Paul would want this back. I don't think it's the kind of book he would read. And also, if it's the kind of book, if I love it, it might have to go into my collection and stay. Mostly, after I've read a book, I will pass it on. I'll either put it into my shop. This is all from here. This is all my shop. These are all available for sale. So it'll either go in there, go to the charity shop, go to a friend. I particularly love passing books on to friends because I always think I want them to love it as much as me, for example. But every now and again, I keep a book. That one might be a keeper. It depends. I mean, it might be a rubbish book. Who knows? But I just like the idea of some bloke coming out of the library, seeing Paul and saying, "You look like an explorer." Is it his hair? Is it your hair, Paul, that makes you look like you've spent months and months away from civilization? I'm not being rude, gorgeous. You know, I love you. So then, I can't remember if it's the same day. Was it the same day or the next day? It's within a few hours because they ended up in a stack on my chair. I had a lovely, completely out of the blue parcel with a sweet little card. Oh, that can go on there, from Claire. And Claire wrote underneath, Claire, brackets, the mitten maker. Remember, I've had my fingerless mittens from her. And how serendipitous is all of this? This was, let me see, if I pop it there, can we see it? Yeah, that's lovely. Pretty. Just completely serendipitously, when Claire was in her charity shop, she espied, oh, we have to look at the light today, Frida. Do you remember I was saying I picked up the DVD and I was so excited to watch it again? I saw it years and years and years ago when I went to the flicks to see it. I had planned my week, not quite around it, but for Saturday evening I was going to have a movie night, turn everything else off, ignore the world, ignore this blimmin' house stuff. God, it's sending me mad. You know what? On a serious note, I'm having to really just sort of double check myself at the moment, because about a week ago, I decided, because we've had some really cold nights. We're having sunny days, but we've had nights that are in the minus temperatures still. And one evening, it was about 8 o'clock, I'd got a hot water bottle, I'd set myself up, I had a book, hot water bottle, my blankie for my 2 hours of relaxation in the evening. And so it was 8 o'clock or so, it's like, right, heating on until 10. Got to about 10 o'clock and I was winding down, what was I reading or whatever it was. I thought, right, I'll turn the heating off. I set an alarm on my phone to remind me 2 hours later, turn the heating off. Got to turn it off. I hadn't even turned it on. No wonder I was cold. It's like, I literally walked over there to turn it on, and I just not, like, such absent-mindedness because I'm so distracted. Now, that's not too bad, you know. But what really freaked me out the other day, again, it was an evening, put the kettle on to boil a kettle for my hot water bottle. I'm pointing like that because my hot water bottle is over there on the sofa from last night. Put the kettle on to boil the water, and it was latish. I'd washed up after my dinner, put the kettle on, and thought, oh, I might as well do the drying up and put my dishes and bits away whilst I'm waiting for the kettle to boil. About a couple of minutes later, I thought, oh my God, the smell. I had turned the gas on, but I hadn't lit it. So there's just gas coming into the kitchen. Oh my God, quickly turn the gas off, open the windows, let all that gas disperse, then turn it back on and light it this time to boil my kettle. And it just gave me it gave me a real fright actually, because absent-mindedness like that is just not like me. It's so unlike me. And I think, God, I feel weepy about it as well. I think it's just a symptom of how this stress is affecting me, and it's just so unhealthy. Despite all my best efforts, you know, I'm eating well, I'm sticking to my sleep routine, all those things. I'm doing everything I possibly can to ameliorate the effects of this stress on me, but even so, it's obviously affecting me. Hence why it's so great to have distraction. So I'd set myself up for that lovely Saturday night movie night thing, put the DVD in, and it was scratched and it wouldn't play. Claire had seen that video, and then next time she was in a charity shop, had seen a copy of Frida, and so bought it for me. Claire, thank you so much. Guess what I'm doing this coming Saturday? I'm going to have a movie night. But not only that, and this one, oh, I can't wait to share this all with you. A book. Just before I come on to the book she sent, let me catch you up on a book that you have seen before if you were watching my channel back into last year. My treats for a tenner leading up to Christmas. Do you remember I bought Seeds of Change by Henry Hobhouse? And it details 5 plants that transformed mankind. The 5 plants being sugar, tea, cotton, potatoes and quinine. And it looks at how the commercialisation of those plants and, you know, how it's changed mankind. So, I read the first couple of paragraphs in the introduction and I thought, God, this is going to be brilliant. This is right up my street. And it's a book I've had my eye on for a number of years, but because I saw it for, I can't remember now, is it one that I got for 50p or, no, a quid. All paperbacks a quid that day. I thought I'll have it. Because it is, I think it's a fascinating subject, and at times it's not a pleasant subject. You know, think about sugar and cotton. We know we're knee deep in slavery and obviously odious stuff. But how it's shaped, you know, for instance, quinine, first chapter's on quinine, which you might or might not know is been used in curing people of malaria. and, you know, taking it prophylactically as well as actually curing once malaria happens. So obviously anything that a human can do, well, in particular it's white colonialists, if they can take quinine, then they can colonise more of the planet. It's essentially what it's about. So if we look at, say, the Commonwealth of the UK, how much of the Commonwealth is such because of quinine? So that's the premise of the book, which is fascinating. Unfortunately, I didn't finish it. I read quinine and gave up. It's really information dense. That's okay. I'm used to reading books which are information dense. I read mostly non-fiction, and I read books which are pretty heavy going sometimes. But it was I just found it stodgy. I had no, which is why I'm coming to the parcel. There's a book in the parcel. I had no inclination to pick the book up. So it sat on my little coffee table next to the sofa, and, you know, a couple of days would go by and I hadn't picked it up. And for me, that tells me this isn't the book for me. If it's a good book, I want to be picking it up every 2 minutes. More of that in a second. So yeah, it's a really interesting subject, but I just think that the execution in this instance was not for me. Like I said, just stodgy, and also it kept sort of going backwards and forwards in time, and I think it would have been better if we'd had a more linear progression. So it made it feel jerky. So it's, on the one hand, it's kind of stodgy and jerky. Ugh. Yeah, didn't do it for me. But you know when you've got a really good book, because if you've got a really good book on the go, if you're me anyway, I will end up reading 2 or 3 pages, standing up in the kitchen, waiting for the kettle to boil for my evening hot water bottle for my reading session, because I can't put the book down even while the kettle is boiling for 2 minutes. And this is such a book. So Claire, oh my goodness, I found my perfect book. This is absolutely my perfect kind of reading. It should be Ma Vie en France, My Life in Paris by Julia Child. And how great having just re-watched Julie and Julia. So obviously you can tell by the cover, this is one of those books that they've re-released to coincide with the film. So the actor, I don't know her name, playing Julie, and of course Meryl Streep being utterly magnificent as Julia Child, and Stanley Tucci, let's not forget Stanley Tucci playing Paul Child. He's brilliant. As I'm reading it, I picture Meryl Streep and Stanley Tucci because they're perfect casting, utterly perfect casting. I want to watch the film again now. Anyway, so the book it actually wasn't finished before Julia's death in 2004, but it's written with her great nephew. Yes, her great nephew. And they've used, both of them were, particularly Paul, were voracious letter writers, and so much of that correspondence was saved and kept. So they've been able to use letters, loads and loads of Paul's photographs, and then Julia, her great nephew Alex, through interviewing her. It is so her voice. You can hear her voice on every page. It's gorgeous. If you are a Francophile, if you're a Parisophile, if you like travel books, if you like food, you would love this book. Right, so it begins in 48 or 49 when they first go to, I haven't finished it, I'm a quarter of the way through. That was last night. The book starts with their arrival in France. It's her first time. She's long since wanted to go to France, in particular to go to Paris. And that frisson of excitement, she expresses it beautifully. And I was thinking, it's funny because no matter how many times I've been to France and been to Paris in particular, I still get excited now to go. But for me, of course, it's almost on my doorstep. You know, the train takes, what is it, like 2.25 hours? I can be in Paris quicker than I could be at my sister's place in North Yorkshire. It's mad, isn't it? And I was thinking, about that and how excited I get. So for an American, especially in the days of having to sail for 5 days from America, that excitement must have been even more. So that's, like I say, it's beautifully expressed. I started, you can see my post-its, I started to put little notes in of bits to share, but I thought, hang on, this is going to be every single page. That's how much I love it. So we start off, she's talking about beurre d'Isigny, which is a butter from the region of Isigny. It's like an appellation contrôlée. It's a designated origin butter. It's gorgeous butter. It's a sort of really light golden colour. You would have it, I mean, you'd use it for all sorts, but it's particularly good. Just have a little bit of it on bread. So I was reading this. It's like she says, it's a table butter. This is her first meal in France. They've got off the ship. So I'm just a few pages in. I'm salivating reading the book. On the next page, then the next course, and she says, I tasted my first real baguette, a crisp brown crust giving way to a slightly chewy, rather loosely textured pale yellow interior, with a faint reminder of wheat and yeast in the odour and taste. Yum! Exclamation mark. And then at the end of that paragraph, she says, Paul and I floated out the door into the brilliant sunshine and cool air. It's the beginning of November. Our first lunch together in France had been absolute perfection. It was the most exciting meal of my life. It's gorgeous. And that's how the book starts. So, oh my goodness, I am loving it. And like I said, there's lots of photographs throughout. I would say if you liked the film Julie and Julia, and like I said, if you like travel, food, and I think you would love the book too. Ultimately, I think we loved Julia because of her absolute, unabashed joy and enthusiasm for each day. I love that. She's a girl after my own heart. You can't imagine her ever being down in the dumps. So yeah, Claire, what an absolute genius pick of a book for me. I am loving it. And like I said, I think I'm going to be getting to the end of it and going back to my charity shop to rebuy my version of my DVD of Julie and Julia. I watched it and took it straight back to the charity shop, but now I want to watch it again. So that's fantastic. Right, rattling. Last couple of things. So I've watched a couple of DVDs as well. Classics, a pair of classics, one way before my time. And when I stopped to think that, I thought, wow, this film is 65 years old, but it's still an absolute cracker of a film. It's a film that I've watched bits of. I've seen clips from this film over and over again, as I'm sure most of you will. If you've not seen the film, I reckon you will have seen clips from it. I knew little bits to do with the story of it, but I've never watched it. So I treated myself to watching Psycho. Hello, Mr. Bates. Oh my goodness, what a brilliant film. Right from the beginning, right from the opening credits, where it's literally just, it's not even action, it's just their names, the actors' names rolling by. The music, right from the beginning, it's creepy, it's scary, it's weird. Within, 30 seconds, literally just the credits, I'm on the edge of my seat. The music, who composed the music? It's going to be impossible to find on the back of this thing because they're always such a tiny... Screenplay was Hitchcock. It doesn't say who did but the music, I mean, we all know the music, don't we? But and I knew about Norman's Secret. I won't say any more, just in case folk haven't watched it. Like me, you're coming to it 65 years late. I mean, it was made before I was born. Sorry, I lost track then. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The performances, all the performances, lovely. After the scene that we all know, the shower, I'll say it, the shower scene, because I think we're all familiar with it. I had no idea how the film was going to pan out. I didn't know what happened in it. As I said, I've never seen it. I just knew one thing about Norman Bates. Very interestingly, though, I thought the very, very end, we have the denouement moment, and then there's another about 4 or 5 minutes of the film, which it seemed incongruous with the rest of the film. It's kind of wrapping everything up and working out what's happened and why has it happened. I wasn't expecting that at all. Stylistically, it's so different to what we're used to now if we watch a thriller. But yeah, brilliant. Fab performances. And obviously it's Hitchcock. He is the master with the camera, isn't he? If you don't know, that shower scene, I can't remember, it's seconds, it's only seconds long. It took them 7 days to film it. And there's something like 47 different shots literally within less than a couple of minutes. It's incredibly complex. If you come to watch it, you just see how many different shots there are. It's so complex. But yeah, all of the camera work it's breathtaking. I know it sounds silly to recommend a film that's 65 years old that probably the vast majority of you have seen. The reason I'm recommending it is because some of you won't have seen it like me, and you sort of take it for granted. I haven't seen Psycho, but I know, he kills her in the shower, It's well worth a look. That is a master at work. Where does it come in his, there's a little, this comes from a sort of a complete collection, and that's, I don't know if the titles are there, but Psycho comes, it's quite 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11. So it's his 11th film. The reason I'm mentioning that is because obviously by the time you've done 11 films, you've really got your craft sorted. Thanks, Hitchcock. Rear Window. Rear Window is one of my absolute all-time favourite films. I'm always looking for it in the old charity shops. I never see it. But yeah, if I see a copy of Rear Window, I'll grab it, rewatch it, and share that with you. So much of Psycho, it's about guilt and secrets, and so that leads me beautifully to my last bit today. Looking at the clock, last thing today, which is my last of my Christmas present DVDs. This was from Barbara. She bought 3 different Shakespeare on film for me. So the final one today is, watch out for the light, there we go, Roman Polanski's Macbeth. 1971, I was a baby. So yeah, I'm going back in time quite a bit today with, 70, 30, 40, 50, 54 years old. No, it's got to be more than that. Yeah, about 54 years old. So as I've said with the other 2 Shakespeares, if you think Shakespeare's not for you because of some awful experience at school, maybe you're 14, it's happened in my school. Macbeth was the play, actually. We were all sitting around school sharing a copy of the play, reading it out loud together. It was awful because, firstly, this room full of 14-year-olds, none of them are actors, apart from me. I was the only one in my group who was going to be an actor. So there's no actors in the room. 14-year-old kids who've got no idea what the language, what any of it means, and therefore can't express anything. So we just have these sessions of kids begrudgingly mumbling these foreign words. It's awful. No kid learns about Shakespeare that way. Put the film on, get them interested. Maybe it's changed now, but in my day, that's how we learned Shakespeare. Could put you off for life. Fortunately, I wasn't put off for life. But if that's your experience of Shakespeare, please don't give up. And if you ever get a chance to watch some Shakespeare on film, give it a go, because yes, some of the language might go over your head, the occasional word, but you will get the meaning, you will get into it if the acting is good. And boy, oh boy. So Macbeth is I mean, it is a very bloody, violent play. It is, bloodlust hardly covers it. It is a play all about ambition and at any cost, then guilt, paranoia, and finally madness. Yeah, if you want to watch, you know, if you want to see guilt personified, Macbeth. Actually, talking of guilt personified, if you want to read about guilt and how that breaks a person down, one of my all-time favourite books is Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. He delineates the descent of this man from his guilt into madness absolutely brilliantly, perfectly. But anyway, back to Macbeth. So, in a nutshell, we've got someone who wants the throne, he wants the crown, and to do that, he's going to kill to get it. But having killed, now he's haunted by his own mind of like, oh, I've done a wrong thing, I shouldn't have done that. And so the rest of the film is about his guilt and how that eventually eats him up. And his wife, we're probably all familiar with the famous scene, she's out, damn spot, out, when she says, who would have thought the old man would have so much blood in him? Because there's blood everywhere. It's this version of it, it's fairly graphic in a couple of places. It's very gory in a couple of places. I would say if you're watching with kids, it depends on your kids, but I would say probably 13 or 14. You might have a 12-year-old who's quite sophisticated, who would be able to, you know, deal with it all. But yeah, otherwise maybe 13 or 14. It is, yeah. What did I just thought I was quickly writing words. Violent, bloody, graphic, gory, bloodthirsty. And also there's a bleakness that overrides the whole play. And it is captured brilliantly in this film, the bleakness of the landscape. So obviously it's set in Scotland, but it was filmed in North Wales. It's kind of stunning and beautiful, even in its bleakness. But we've got this external bleakness because of the setting. And of course, that's mirroring the internal bleakness of these people who have been treacherous in their doings, and how that comes back to thoroughly bite them all on the bum-bums. Right, I think I'm going to wrap up there. So you see, happiness is distracting yourself when you're going through hell, when you're having emails every day that harass you, that threaten you, that try to blackmail you or bully you into any way. Trying to distract myself, and I'm managing pretty well, thanks to, yes, wonderful gifts. And once I was reading the Seeds of Change when this parcel arrived, and I just thought, do you know what, that Seeds of Change, I've read about 30 pages in a week. It's obviously not for me. Ditch it, because I want to start this. So I started it last night. I'm going to finish that in a couple of evenings. Then I'm going to be on to Happiness is Also a Gift from a Mate, that's got a bit of a story behind it. I'll be on to that. Tons more, you know, fab DVDs lined up to watch. Can't wait to bring some of them to you. I've got some more classics. I've got some world cinema type classics, some European classics, we're going back to black and white days. But well worth a watch. Films that have actually changed the course of film history. Can't wait. Some more animation. Can't wait. So yeah, I've got plenty to keep me going of an evening, to keep me sane. I can at least be sane for a couple of hours in the evening, even if it all goes to pot the next morning when I get up and turn the computer on. Should we not turn the computer on for a couple of days? Maybe that's the best thing. Just leave it turned off. Be absent. All right, lovelies, I will see you all again really soon. And who knows, maybe at some point in the next few days, I might even be able to bring some news of this craziness and maybe a step forward. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Until then, though, Keep yourselves occupied and distracted with fantastic books, whatever. Keep yourself well. For now, cheerio.